When I walked into the control room Monday morning and heard nothing but the hum of empty processors instead of the usual chatter of data streams flowing through our mainframe. That AS400 system had been the beating heart of Gulf States manufacturing for 12 years, keeping track of every bolt, gasket, and pressure valve we shipped to oil rigs from Texas to the Gulf of Mexico. I'm Max Sullivan, 56 years old, and I've been the senior systems analyst here since this company was half its current size. I run the supply chain operations for 8 manufacturing plants across Texas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma. It's not glamorous work, but it keeps 3,500 factory workers employed and oil rigs operational. When our system goes down, those rigs don't get their equipment. When rigs don't get equipment, people don't get energy. It's that simple. Let me tell you something about manufacturing logistics. It's not like managing inventory for some retail store. These plants produce critical components for offshore drilling platforms, pressure valves that have to withstand 10,000 psi, safety systems that prevent blowouts, custom manifolds that take 6 weeks to machine. One wrong part number, one missed delivery, and you've got a rig sitting dead in the water burning $35,000 a day in standby costs. The system I maintained wasn't some sleek cloud-based solution that looks good in PowerPoint presentations. It was a battle-tested mainframe running COBOL programs I'd written and debugged over 12 years. Every plant manager knew they could call me at 3 a.m. and I'd walk them through any issue. When Hurricane Laura hit the Louisiana coast last year, I kept our supply chain running from my kitchen table while power lines were down for a week. But corporate doesn't see it that way. They see an old system that needs modernizing, and they see me as the dinosaur standing in the way of progress. That's where Madison Foster comes in. Madison is 26 years old with an MBA from Stanford, and more importantly, she's got the ear of CEO Robert Parker. 6 months ago, our company got acquired by Parker Industries Holdings, a conglomerate that owns everything from steel mills to equipment rental chains. Madison came in with a mandate to streamline operations and eliminate redundancies. Translation, replace expensive legacy systems with cheaper cloud solutions. I'd met Madison a few times in company meetings. She's one of those people who wears designer suits to factory floors and stays in air-conditioned offices while real workers sweat in 100-degree heat. Got her business degree and thinks every operational problem can be solved with an app and buzzwords like digital transformation and agile methodology. She's never spent a day on a plant floor, never had to explain to a rig foreman why his blowout preventer is 2 weeks late because some calculation went wrong. The meeting happened on a Tuesday. Robert called me into his office along with Jennifer Foster from HR. Jennifer's been here almost as long as I have, but she's always been more concerned with protecting the company than protecting the employees. She had that nervous energy of someone who knows bad news is coming, but has to deliver it with a smile. Robert's office looked like something from a business magazine. Glass desk, leather chairs, and a view of the shipping yard that he probably never actually looked at. He was tapping on his tablet when I walked in, making me wait while he finished whatever urgent task required his immediate attention. Mac, Robert said, not bothering to look up, "We're restructuring the IT department, moving to a more efficient, cost-effective model." I sat down in the chair across from his glass desk. "What does that mean for operations?" That's where it gets exciting. Robert finally looked at me, flashing the kind of smile that car salesmen practice in mirrors. "I want you to meet Madison Foster. She's built an incredible ERP solution that's going to revolutionize how we handle supply chain management. Here's the thing about corporate restructuring. Competence takes a back seat to cost savings every time. I'd seen it before at other companies, but I thought our operation was too critical for that kind of nonsense. I was wrong. Madison walked in like she owned the place, which, through corporate politics, she basically did. She was carrying a laptop like it contained the secrets of the universe and had that confident energy of someone who'd never seen a real system crash and burn. "Hi, Mac," she said, extending a manicured hand. "I've been reviewing your processes, very thorough, but also very manual. I think we can do much better." The way she said manual made it sound like I was still using punch cards and paper ledgers. Better how? I asked, though I had a sinking feeling I already knew where this was heading. Madison opened her laptop and started clicking through screens with the confidence of someone who'd never dealt with a real crisis. "I've built a comprehensive supply chain solution on a cloud-based ERP platform. It's intuitive, scalable, and can handle all the inventory tracking you're currently doing with that old mainframe." I stared at her for a moment. "Cloud-based? You want to run operations for 8 plants through an internet connection?" "Not just any connection," Madison said, getting slightly defensive. This has real-time data synchronization, automated reorder points, predictive analytics. It's like having a supercomputer, but user-friendly. User-friendly. That's what they always say when they want to replace something that actually works with something that looks prettier. I've been in this business long enough to know that user-friendly usually means it works great until it doesn't. And then you're in deep trouble because nobody understands what's happening under the hood. I looked at Robert, hoping to see some sign that he understood how risky this was. Is this serious? It's innovation, Mac, Robert said, leaning back in his leather chair. Madison's platform can reduce processing time by 70% and cut our IT overhead significantly. There it was. Cut IT overhead. What they meant was they could fire me and pay Madison a fraction of my salary. I'd seen this movie before at other companies. Young MBA comes in, promises the world with some untested solution. Experienced employee gets shown the door, and then 6 months later, they're begging the old guy to come back and fix the mess. Quarterly inventory reconciliation is next week, I said, keeping my voice level. Today is Tuesday. If you're planning to switch systems, you need to understand what you're dealing with. I started counting off on my fingers. We have custom part classifications for 4,500 different valve types, hazardous material handling protocols that change based on shipping destination, just-in-time delivery schedules synchronized with rig maintenance windows, multi-state EPA compliance tracking, where one wrong classification can trigger a federal audit. Madison was nodding along like she understood, but I could see her eyes glazing over. She thought she grasped it because she'd read about supply chain management in some textbook. I've accounted for all of that, she interrupted. My platform includes automated compliance checking and intelligent inventory optimization. Intelligent optimization. Right. The Louisiana plant alone has 4,500 different SKUs with lead times ranging from 2 days to 16 weeks. Some parts can be substituted, others are custom machined to exact specifications. You've got components that degrade in humidity, others that can't be stored above 75 degrees. Emergency orders that jump the queue, government contracts with specific Buy American requirements. Madison, I said, trying to keep the frustration out of my voice, have you ever managed inventory for offshore drilling equipment? I've studied the industry extensively, she replied. Studying and doing are two different things. You know what happens when you get critical component delivery wrong on an active rig? That platform stops drilling. They burn $35,000 a day in standby costs while waiting for parts. The oil company doesn't care about your cloud platform or your predictive analytics. They want their equipment, and they want it now. Mac, Jennifer finally spoke up. We'll need you to provide Madison with all necessary system access and documentation for a smooth transition. Documentation. I almost laughed. Most of the critical processes were in programs I'd written and refined over 12 years. The real knowledge wasn't in any manual. It was in my head, earned through dealing with every possible crisis and edge case. I know that the Oklahoma City plant has a quirk where their barcode scanners sometimes skip the last digit after midnight, but only on weekends. I know that the Houston facility's loading dock computer crashes if you try to process more than 200 line items in a single shipment. I know which suppliers always ship 2 days late and which ones deliver early, so I adjust accordingly. Madison doesn't know any of that. She's got her sleek cloud platform with its pretty dashboards and automated alerts, but she's never had to explain to a rig superintendent why his blowout preventer is sitting on a dock in Galveston instead of on his platform 200 miles offshore. When's my last day? I asked. Friday, Robert said. After the quarterly reconciliation, we want to make sure there's a smooth handoff, and if the handoff isn't smooth, I asked. Madison jumped in. It will be. I've tested the platform extensively. On what data? Sample data sets plus modeling scenarios. Sample data, modeling scenarios. She'd tested her revolutionary supply chain solution on make-believe numbers. It was like testing a race car by driving it around a parking lot at 10 miles per hour and then assuming it would handle the Daytona 500. I stood up, my knees popping the way they do when you've been sitting too long or when you're about to make a decision you know you'll either regret or celebrate. All right then, I guess we'll see how it goes. That's the spirit, Robert said, already looking back at his tablet. I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back to Madison. One piece of advice, I said. When the system crashes, and it will crash, don't panic. Just remember that 3,500 people depend on their paychecks, and oil rigs depend on our equipment. That might help you prioritize. The look on her face told me she still didn't get it. She thought this was just numbers on screens. She had no idea she was about to be responsible for keeping America's energy infrastructure running. I didn't argue anymore. I didn't try to explain why Madison's approach was doomed to fail worse than a submarine with screen doors. Sometimes the best teacher is experience, and Madison was about to get an education that no Stanford MBA program could provide. The next 3 days were like watching a slow-motion train wreck. I spent Wednesday and Thursday doing exactly what they asked, documenting everything I could think of, creating user guides, and writing step-by-step procedures. But here's the thing about complex systems that have evolved over 12 years: you can't document institutional knowledge. You can't write down the gut feeling you get when something looks wrong, or the instinct that tells you to double-check an order because the quantities seem off. Madison shadowed me those 2 days, taking notes on her tablet and asking questions that showed she had no clue what she was walking into. Why do you manually verify the Oklahoma City shipments? She asked Wednesday morning as I ran through the pre-reconciliation checks. Because their system has a glitch where it sometimes doubles quantities on emergency orders, I explained. If you don't catch it, you ship twice what they need and leave other rigs short. Can't we just fix the glitch? It's their system, not ours. We just have to work around it. She made a note on her tablet. I could see her typing "fix Oklahoma City system glitch" like that was something she could handle with a phone call. Thursday afternoon, Madison felt confident enough to start importing real data into her cloud platform. I watched her upload the quarterly inventory files from all 8 plants. The system immediately started lagging. "It's just processing," she said, clicking refresh repeatedly while the platform churned through 4,500 SKUs and custom part classifications. But I could see what was happening. Her automated algorithms were trying to optimize inventory levels without understanding that you can't treat a $50,000 custom manifold the same way you treat a box of standard bolts. Some parts you keep deep stock of because they fail frequently. Others you order just in time because they're too expensive to warehouse. "Madison," I said carefully, "you might want to test that on a smaller data set first. It'll be fine," she replied. But I could hear the uncertainty creeping into her voice as the platform's response time slowed to a crawl. Friday morning came, and it was time for the official handoff. Madison showed up early with her laptop and the nervous energy of a rookie pilot before her first solo flight. "Ready to make history?" she asked, trying to sound confident. I gathered my personal items while she set up at my workstation a coffee mug that said "World's Okayest Systems Analyst," a photo of my 1967 Mustang, and a small tackle box I kept emergency supplies in. Seemed appropriate to take it with me. Something told me they'd need those supplies more than I would. The quarterly reconciliation has to be completed by 5 p.m. for the EPA compliance report. I reminded her. After that, the audit trail locks and you can't make changes until next quarter. "Got it," Madison said, already focused on her screen where the cloud platform was grinding through the inventory data like a chainsaw trying to cut through steel. I started to leave, then stopped. "Madison, one more thing. When this goes sideways, and it will go sideways, don't try to fix it by reprocessing the data. Each time you rerun, you create duplicate entries. Fix the problem first, then reprocess." She wasn't really listening. She was staring at her screen where the platform was showing error messages in about half the inventory categories. Jennifer walked me to security where Eddie Wright was waiting with my severance paperwork. Eddie's a good guy, ex-Air Force, who understands the value of knowing your job inside and out. "Sorry to see you go, Mac," Eddie said as I signed the documents. "This doesn't feel right. It's just business, Eddie. Bad business, but business nonetheless." I drove home in my pickup truck. Windows down, Johnny Cash on the radio. I should have been angry, but mostly I felt like I was watching a disaster movie where you know the tornado is coming, but the characters haven't figured it out yet. My phone started buzzing around 11 a.m. Text from Tony Valdez, one of the plant supervisors. "Mac, the new system is showing weird numbers. Says we have negative inventory on blowout preventers." Then another text from Danny Torres in the Houston office. "Dude, according to this platform, we apparently have 8,000 pressure valves worth $2 million each. I wish." By noon, my phone was lighting up like a Christmas tree. Plant managers from across our territory were seeing inventory reports that made no mathematical sense. Part numbers were getting scrambled with serial numbers. Emergency orders were showing as delivered when they hadn't even been shipped yet. The funniest one came from Steve Cooper, our union rep. "Mac, The system says we manufactured 15,000 drilling platforms last week. Did we take over ExxonMobil? I could picture exactly what had happened during the data migration. Madison had mixed up the field mappings. Part quantities were being treated as dollar values, and serial numbers were being used as reorder points. The cloud platform was trying to optimize inventory using completely wrong data, like trying to navigate with a map of Mars when you're driving through Texas. But the weird numbers were just the appetizer. The main course would be served at 2 p.m. when the platform tried to generate the quarterly EPA compliance report using Madison's corrupted data. At 1:45 p.m. my phone rang. It was Jennifer from HR Mac. Her voice was tight with panic. "We need to talk. Madison's platform is showing some irregularities." Irregularities. According to the compliance report, we'd apparently shipped 50,000 tons of hazardous materials to a single rig in the Gulf, while simultaneously reporting zero emissions for the entire quarter. The EPA's automated monitoring system had flagged us for what looked like either massive environmental violations or complete reporting fraud. Also, Jennifer continued, 3 of our biggest clients are calling because the platform sent them delivery confirmations for equipment they never ordered, along with invoices totaling $1.20 print. Totaling not one. I pulled into my driveway and sat in the truck, listening to Jennifer explain how Madison's cloud platform had managed to turn our quarterly reconciliation into what looked like a federal crime. "Has anyone told Robert yet? He's in board meetings all day." Madison said she could fix it. Famous last words. I'd heard them before from every overconfident rookie who thought they could patch a sinking ship with duct tape and wishful thinking. "Jennifer," I said, "you might want to cancel those meetings." By 3 p.m., Gulf States Manufacturing had stopped being a supply chain company and started being a disaster zone. The EPA compliance report was so corrupted that their automated system had launched a preliminary investigation. Our insurance company was calling about the mysterious $1.2 million in unauthorized deliveries. The platform had crashed completely, taking with it any ability to track where anything was or where it was supposed to go. But the real fireworks started when the oil companies got involved. When drilling platforms don't get their scheduled equipment deliveries, they don't send polite emails asking for updates. They start looking for new suppliers. By 4 p.m., Steve Cooper was standing in our parking lot with a megaphone and about 200 workers behind him. "Gulf States Manufacturing thinks they can play games with our jobs." His voice echoed across the industrial complex. "If they can't figure out how to run their own business, maybe we need to shut it down until they do." The wildcat strike spread through our plants faster than bad news at a family reunion. Operations stopped first in Louisiana, then Oklahoma City, then Houston. By closing time, all 8 facilities had gone quiet. 3,500 workers sitting in the parking lots, posting videos on social media, calling news stations. The footage was something to behold. Aerial shots of idle manufacturing plants, interviews with workers holding printouts that made no sense. Union reps explaining to reporters how a company that supplied half the Gulf Coast drilling equipment couldn't figure out basic inventory management. My phone kept buzzing with updates from Eddie and other guys still inside the building. Madison locked herself in the conference room. Eddie texted. She's been trying to restore the system for 4 hours, but every time she tries something, it breaks something else. Another text. Robert's been screaming at tech support all afternoon. Apparently Madison accidentally deleted the backup files when she tried to reload the data. That made me chuckle. Of course she did. When you're panicking and something's not working, the natural impulse is to start over. But when you start over in the cloud without proper backups, you lose everything. Madison had just erased the only copy of our quarterly data, and cloud platforms don't have the same recovery options as mainframes. Monday morning, I was sitting on my back porch drinking coffee and reading news articles about our supply chain crisis when my phone rang. Robert Parker. Mac. His voice sounded like he'd been chewing gravel. "We need to talk." "Morning, Robert. Saw you on the news last night. Nice interview. I especially liked the part where you blamed the problems on unexpected integration challenges during a routine system upgrade." Cut the commentary. "The EPA is launching a full investigation. Our biggest clients are threatening to cancel contracts worth $15 million. The insurance company froze our liability coverage because they think we're either incompetent or committing fraud. Sounds like quite a situation. I need you to come back. Consulting basis. Name your price. I'd been waiting for this call since Friday afternoon." $8,000 cash up front plus a new contract at 40% above my old salary. Done. I'm not finished. I want a public announcement that the system failures were caused by premature implementation of an inadequate platform. And I want Madison reassigned to something where she can't damage operations. Long silence. Then, fine. One more thing. I report directly to you now, not through any VP. I'm done dealing with people who think cloud platforms can replace experience. Whatever you need, Mac. Just fix this mess. I drove back to the office Tuesday morning. The parking lot still had union guys camped out, but they waved when they saw my truck. Steve Cooper walked over as I was getting out. Mac, tell me you're here to save our jobs. Working on it, Steve. You guys should see some movement by Wednesday afternoon. What about pay for the time we've been sitting here? Every penny, with overtime for anyone who was scheduled to work. I walked into the building like I owned it, because for the next few days, I basically did. The control room felt like coming home after a long deployment. I fired up the old mainframe and started digging through the wreckage Madison had left behind. It was worse than I'd expected. She hadn't just corrupted the quarterly data. She'd managed to lock the EPA compliance databases, create circular references in the inventory optimization algorithms, and somehow convince the system that we manufactured negative quantities of everything. It took me 3 days working around the clock, but I rebuilt everything from the transaction archive logs, real backups stored on systems Madison didn't even know existed. By Wednesday morning, I had clean data ready for the compliance report and accurate inventory numbers for all 8 plants. The hardest part wasn't the technical work. It was explaining to angry clients why their orders had been delayed, why they'd received invoices for equipment they never bought, and why they should trust us again. I spent Tuesday afternoon on the phone with rig superintendents, walking them through our actual inventory and delivery schedules. Mac, this is bullshit, said Jim Morrison from Deepwater Drilling. We've got a platform sitting idle because your system said our blowout preventer was delivered when it's still sitting in your warehouse. Jim, I know. The new system screwed up the tracking. Your BOP is loaded on truck 47 and will be on location by Thursday morning. I'm personally monitoring the shipment. You better be. This cost us $140,000 in downtime. Send me the invoice. We'll make it right. That was the difference between real experience and MBA theory. When you've been doing this job for 12 years, you know that relationships matter more than algorithms. These guys didn't care about our internal corporate drama. They just wanted their equipment delivered on time so they could keep drilling. By Wednesday afternoon, I had most of the immediate crises under control. The EPA compliance report was submitted clean. Emergency orders were back on track. The insurance company unfroze our accounts after I walked them through our actual processes and showed them the corrected data. But I saved the best for last. I printed out every error message, every corrupted report, every system failure that Madison's platform had generated. Then I walked into Robert's office and dropped the stack on his glass desk. Here's your digital transformation, I said. Robert looked at the pile of papers like it might explode. How bad was it? She managed to corrupt 3 months of inventory data, trigger a federal investigation, and nearly bankrupt the company in 4 days. That's actually impressive in its own way. Where is she now? Strategic planning research. I figured she can't do much damage analyzing market trends. Robert nodded. And your new office? He gestured toward the corner office with windows overlooking the shipping yard. All yours. I had them install a better coffee machine and a direct phone line to the plant floor. I walked to my new desk and sat down in the executive chair. Through the window, I could see the plants coming back to life. Trucks rolling out with full loads, cranes moving equipment, workers heading back to their shifts with overtime pay in their pockets. My phone buzzed with a text from Eddie. Heard Madison's working in strategic planning now. Thinks she can handle market research without crashing the economy. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out the bottle of good bourbon I'd been saving for a special occasion. This qualified. Sometimes the old ways work best. Sometimes experience beats innovation. Sometimes when corporate tries to fix what isn't broken, they learn the hard way that some jobs require more than just an MBA and a cloud platform. The union guys were packing up their camp chairs and heading back to work. Steve Cooper gave me a thumbs up through the window. Tony Valdez texted that the Louisiana plant was back to full production. Danny Torres sent a photo of the Houston facility's loading dock, busy as ever. I poured a shot into my new coffee mug, one that said Director of Operations Technology, and raised it toward the window. Here's to keeping the machines running and making sure working people have jobs worth showing up for. Here's to knowing that institutional knowledge can't be replaced by algorithms. And here's to the fact that sometimes, just sometimes, competence wins over corporate politics. That's definitely worth drinking to. 6 months later, Madison Foster left Gulf States Manufacturing to pursue new opportunities in digital consulting. Last I heard, she was selling cloud solutions to companies that probably didn't need them. Some people never learn, but that's their problem now. I've got 8 plants to keep running and 3,500 people counting on me to do it right. It's honest work, and I'm damn good at it. Sometimes the old ways work because they've been tested by reality, not theory.